Hello, my name is Carroll Cobes, and I am currently part of the Monday Night Bible Study Fellowship group in Fort Worth, Texas, under the leadership of Debbie Daniels. We are studying Genesis this year, and today I'd like to present one of the largest set of ruins in the southern Jordan Valley and what features she holds. In fact, could she be biblical Sodom? As Assistant Dig Director of the Tal al-Hammam excavation project in Jordan, I have spent 2 months each year in the past 15 years uncovering the many occupational layers at Tal al-Hammam, spanning over 4,000 years, from approximately 3900 BC to about 135 AD. Our site existed as a rural settlement and then later a huge urban city a long time even before Abraham and Lot arrived from Mesopotamia. It was then occupied again during the time of the united and divided kingdoms of Israel. This coincided with Ammon, Moab, and Edom, and even into the early Roman times. Just a side note before starting this lecture, the word tal in Arabic or tel in Hebrew denotes a mound of ruins. So let me start this process of evaluation with the geography. What does the biblical text actually say about the location of Sodom? If you look at Genesis 13:3 and then verses 10 through 12, it says that Abraham and Lot were somewhere between Bethel and Ai. And in verse 10, Lot lifted up his eyes and saw the Jordan Valley was well watered everywhere. So Lot chose for himself all of this Jordan Valley, and Lot journeyed which direction? East. And Lot settled among the cities of the valley and moved his tent as far as Sodom. The region of Bethel and Ai is very rocky and rugged, so it shouldn't be a surprise to us that Lot, of course, chose the best area for his sheep and his people. He chose the Jordan Valley to relocate, and from Bethel and Ai, he went directly east. Besides this, the city of Sodom is always mentioned first when it talks about the cities of the plain. This suggests that it was the largest and grandest of the 5 cities in the region. Tal al-Hammam is located 12.6 kilometers northeast of the Dead Sea and the Jordan Valley, and is at the far side at the base of the mountain range with other smaller tals nearby. Besides this, she has plentiful water sources, not only from the nearby Jordan River, but the water tributaries coming down and running from the hills, as well as local underground springs that are actually still in use today. Besides that, Tal al-Hammam sits close by the ancient trade routes that run north to south and also east to west across the river into Jericho and even up to ancient Salem, or present-day Jerusalem. Before our excavations at Tal al-Hammam began, many scholars and even current Bible maps show Sodom as the site of Babadra, which you can see here located on this map at the south end of the Dead Sea. Now, there are 2 significant problems with this theory. First, look at where Bethel and Ai exist, and I wonder if you can actually even see down to Babadra. The answer is no. I've been down in that valley, and you can look across and see the highlands in Israel, but not as far north as Bethel and Ai. But the more significant problem with the theory is that the destruction at Babadra for the ancient city is way too early to fit the time frame for Abraham and Lot. Most scholars designate their existence within the Middle Bronze Age time period, sometime between 2000 and 1550 BC. Therefore, Tal al-Hammam's geographical location is one of the best indicators that this could be biblical Sodom instead of Babadra. Now you may ask, what is the view from Mamre, which is outside of Hebron, where Abraham was visited with the angels? This is a different scenario because although it is distant, we know how great the destruction of Sodom and the cities of the plain was from the biblical text. So there is no doubt that Abraham and Sarah could see the rising black clouds of smoke and even see the fire and sulfur could be seen from their vantage point from this distance. Now that I have shown you that Tal al-Hammam is in the right place, does she have the right properties for Sodom? In other words, what exactly have we found through excavations? Well, to begin with, her size alone is exceptional and has both an upper and a lower tall. During Abraham's time in the Middle Bronze Age, Tal al-Hammam was 62 acres, and that is just within the city boundaries. She is one big lady. To put her size in perspective, though, Jerusalem at the time of Abraham was just 12 acres. Jericho was a mere 10 acres, and Megiddo was 20 acres. Tal al-Hammam's upper tall looks amazingly like the starship Enterprise. The lower city is extremely vast, and the underground springs are located here. There we have encountered remains of a Roman bathhouse. So what exactly does the Bible say about Sodom? Genesis 19:1 clearly expresses that Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom during the angel's arrival. This signifies that Sodom was a well-fortified city and had large city walls, multiple gateways, and a large infrastructure that included dwellings, administrative buildings, and also cultic centers. Our excavation over 15 years at Tal al-Hammam has exposed all of these architectural elements and more. So let's start on our excavational findings from the lower Tal. In the lower city, we have clarified several segments of an early Bronze Age city wall dating from 3300 to 2300 BC. This wall surrounded the entire lower city and is 5 meters wide. The early Bronze Age city wall was then reused during a later intermediate Bronze Age, and that city was heavily destroyed. Therefore, the peoples in the later Middle Bronze Age time were smart and strategically constructed their own city wall to abut up to the early Bronze Age city. Their wall was 4 meters thick, which is about 13 feet wide. Thus, the city of Sodom now had a 9-meter thick fortification barrier, which included the early Bronze Age and the Middle Bronze Age walls together, which was a barrier and massive and larger than most other sites in the Levant. Additionally, every 20 meters, large towers were positioned along the city wall for soldiers to guard. This alone displays Sodom's affluence and notoriety in the Levant. Besides the city walls and the large tower, we also excavated the central gateway that had 2 flanking small towers on either side. Was this actually the gateway where Lot sat? Look now at the gateway where the person is standing. You can see for yourself that it is way too small for someone to sit, much less stand, without blocking traffic. However, once through the gateway, we uncovered remains of the actual gatehouse. This gatehouse is where daily business and gatherings would have taken place. Therefore, Lot would actually have been sitting inside the gatehouse rather than in the gateway itself. The large stones you see here are pillar or column bases, which supported a roof for the gatehouse. Here we have positioned volunteers to show and clarify the pillar stones. These two reconstructions of the gatehouse itself with the gateway and the one on the right with the small and large towers are done by our archaeological architect, Dr. Lane Rittmeyer, who has illustrated these plans based on his expertise of ancient architecture. Once you entered through the gateway and continued through the gatehouse, you could either go straight into the central part of the lower tall, or you could circumnavigate your way around via a 2-meter wide, 7-foot wide ring road, which abuts next to the city walls. This we clarified, and it leads to the dwelling or housing district on the lower city of Tal al-Hammam. This photo shows the remains of some of the houses that were excavated with the central streets running through the housing districts. This is also a good photo to note just how the ancient walls were constructed in the Levant. They started with a stone foundation and then laid sun-dried mud bricks on top of these, which formed their walls. The house foundations that were excavated from the Middle Bronze Age in this area all contained a large family communal outer courtyard. Many had stone-lined storage areas and even ovens. The houses had multiple rooms for their extended families to all dwell together. This reconstruction drawing of one of these houses and the central street is actually based on the foundations and architecture that we excavated in the prior photo that you saw. You see the central street, the ring road abutting the city wall, and the house there with 2 basic rooms and the courtyard. During one of our earlier seasons, the team also partially uncovered a Middle Bronze Age temple that sat in the central area of the lower city. It is highlighted in blue here. A circular stone altar was discovered there with a small ceremonial bowl sitting on it. We knew going into the excavations in this specific area that we would have to be careful because of the deep plowing that takes place in the fields on the lower tall. Therefore, the excavations here around the temple area were deemed a salvage or rescue operation. We had to quickly go in, excavate, and document everything, and then backfill the area. We hope that this preserved it because the following season, when we went to re-excavate it, plowing had taken place and the whole area and land and field were filled with banana trees. In recent seasons, we have gone to the upper tall and excavated. Here is a drone photo showing some of our findings on the right. Note the Middle Bronze Age palace complex, as I will be discussing this area next. In order to actually reach the Middle Bronze Age architecture, We have to start at the top and begin excavating and examining research, collecting data, and removing walls from later occupations, which include the Iron Age. Thus far, we have identified 5 phases of architecture from this Iron Age time period of the United and Divided Kingdoms. This architecture all lies above the yellow line. Lately, we have finally reached the lower level of the Middle Bronze Age from the time of Abraham and Lot, below this yellow line. The actual Middle Bronze Age city on the Upper Tall has its own and separate city wall that surrounded it. Also excavated, we reveal segments of a steep rampart system. These ramparts were developed during this Middle Bronze Age time period for additional defensive measures. They are actually earthen-packed steep slopes to help prevent attack of the city. At Tal al-Hammam, our rampart is amazingly constructed of mud bricks instead of earth. Imagine the labor and intensity put forth for this. Currently, we have slowly been enlarging a monumental service compound that is likely associated with the palace itself. The palace has yet to be excavated, but this service compound is separated on the Upper Tall from other buildings and houses by 2.2-meter walls over 7 foot thick. The interior walls of this compound create several long rooms for ample work areas to service the palace. Our Middle Bronze Age material finds have been incredible. We have several of these ancient clay ovens called taboons, and then on the right you see a picture of just how this oven would have been utilized back then. We also have found many mortars and pestles, grinding stones, and even jars with charred grain as evidence for the destruction of Sodom. One of the most prevalent findings in this area, as well as all over the Upper and the Lower Tall, are Canaanian flint blades and other flints. In addition to food preparation and cooking, and also flint tools, textile implements such as loom weights and spindle whorls have also been discovered in this complex. However, pottery is the most important find for any excavation. Even small and tiny sherds collected can be significant data and are used to assign an actual date and time period to each layer uncovered. For example, if our Monday night leader from BSF, Debbie Daniels, walked into our lecture wearing bell bottoms and a halter top, we'd know that not only was she having a midlife crisis, but she's reliving her days from the 60s or early 70s, because the shape and style of vessels in antiquity altered at various times. From all across the site, we have collected these significant finds, and some of these include even imports or import imitations from Egypt and Cyprus. We've also found weapons such as bronze spear points or blades or flint sling stones. Also collected have been several stone weights for measurement purposes for exchanges such as grain or agricultural products. Personal items such as beads and jewelry have also been collected and documented. So what about the evidence of the destruction at Tal al-Hammam from this Middle Bronze Age occupational layer and city? Well, the ash layer is really thick and includes multiple pieces of charred wood remains. Unfortunately, these remains are similar to destruction layers from all ancient sites from various periods, whether it stemmed from an attack, an earthquake, especially as this Dead Sea area lies on a major fault line, or other circumstances. Currently, our excavation project has a team of scientists working with us that are collecting destruction samples and looking into evidence of a possible airburst event from a time frame around 1750 BC. This is because this date, 1750 BC, is what our carbon-14 samples have illustrated from grain samples as the date of the destruction of this city. This date fits nicely towards the end of the Middle Bronze Age date of 1550 BC. Our immediate future goal includes the excavation of the Acropolis area of this upper city, where the actual palace should be located. If this truly is Sodom, then whose palace is it? We know from the biblical text and the battle between Chedorlaomer and the kings, it would be King Bera's palace. However, we do have a ways to go because we have to circumvent some of the Roman tower remains, then expose the Iron Age city wall below that and associated structures. In other words, to put it in perspective, the Middle Bronze layer of architecture lies 7 meters below the walking surface, which is about 23 feet down. That's a lot of dirt to move out. But for now, I need to present to you my favorite season dig t-shirt. What happens in Sodom stays in Sodom. I cannot tell you the number of archaeologists in our current time that do not believe the patriarchal accounts of the Bible. They believe that they were fabricated to create a unification for the Israelites while they were in exile in Babylon. Therefore, please pray for our project and our finds that we are on the right track. You are welcome to come dig with us in 2022. Go to www.digsodom.com. Thank you.